Hey there everyone, it's Laurel here. Welcome to another video here on my YouTube channel. I'm going to be making this rainbow feathered card today using some products from the new Naturally Inspired Stamp of Approval collection. These are the two stamp sets I'm going to be using from the collection. It's called Birds of a Feather and Simply the Best. I am also going to be using my friend the MISTI stamping tool, which is going to make really pulling this card together a breeze. So I've gone ahead and mounted my feather where I want it to be, and I'm inking up the feather with Party Dress. And with all the feathers, I want the top of the feathers to be a little bit darker, so I'm doing some double stamping here. So you see that I inked up the top of that feather with the same color, and then I pressed down, and I have a darker impression on that feather up there at the top. And again, I'm going to do that with all four feathers. So I'm going to line my feather up again. This time I pulled in one of the corners from the Creative Corners, which is an add-on kit that was created for help when using the MISTI, and gone ahead and mounted that onto my MISTI, inking it up with some orange twist. Again, I'm going to ink up the top of the feather again and stamp down. And I'm going to do this with all four, so you kind of get the idea of what I'm doing here. So the next color I'm using, I'm going in with a yellow, so I'm using Tiara. And the last feather color that I'm going to be using is, if you know me, wait for it, of course, Aquatini. Anything in the aqua family. This is my favorite color, and next to that is Meant to Be. They're both in the pretty mint aqua families, and I'm a sucker. I don't know what to tell you. I love me some aqua tones. All right, so I'm going ahead again, pulling out the best word, which is from the Simply the Best stamp set, and I'm going to stamp that right in the middle of those feathers. Going to use the black ink from the Catherine Pooler line. It's called Midnight. Now with these inks, they also stay wet a little bit longer, not as long as traditional pigment inks do, but definitely longer than dye ink. So if you work quickly, you can heat emboss. You know what I'm saying? Oh, here's where the MISTI really came in handy. I didn't get that T inked very well. So I re-inked it and then pressed down, and wada bang, I'm ready to roll here. So moving quickly here, I sprinkled on some clear embossing powder, and then I'll go ahead and heat set that. That is a total optional step here. It just gave that best a little bit of shine from the heat embossing here. Now it's time to add the whole sentiment to the card here. So I've got some black cardstock here. I prepped it with an anti-static tool. You can use baby powder or cornstarch if you don't have an anti-static tool. And I'm inking up these words with some white pigment ink. That is from Hero Arts, because Catherine has not released a white ink yet. I'm gonna have to knock her in the head and tell her to get on that. You know what I'm saying? So I went ahead and sprinkled on some white embossing powder, and then I'll heat set that. Anytime I'm heat setting sentiments, I always use a super fine embossing powder. I want to make sure it picks up all the letters of the words. So sentiments, think super fine embossing powders, and you'll never go wrong. So I'll go ahead and snip these down to little labels, almost kind of like that Dymo label maker, which I have. I love it, love it, love it, love it. It's old school, and there's something about a white sentiment against a black card base. I don't know what it is. So I'm going to pop up these two little sentiment strips with some foam tape. That's from Scotch. I had to trim it down with my scissors because it was a lot fatter than my sentiment strips here. And then the last thing I need to do is I'm going to stamp the word ever, also from that same stamp set I've been using here. I'm just going to pick up an acrylic block and stamp it very quickly, and I thank the good Lord I didn't stamp it crooked or anything like that, because that would have been, I would have been not happy. You know what I'm saying? All right, this is a little graphic here, a little plaid square, and I'm going to create a border with that. So I'm just inking it up multiple times. Don't worry about that top square that I didn't ink up fully. I won't even use it. So I just inked it up to create a little bit of border here. So I need to trim my card panel down. So I'm trimming it down to 4. So it's going to be 4 by 5.5. And then I'm going to add some tape on the back side of that card panel here, and then apply that piece of cardstock here with that little plaid border. Now that looks like really bad. So I'll trim it all down. It'll make sense here in just a second. So I'm going to go ahead and adhere this whole thing to a turquoise card base. And now I'm going to grab my scissors, which are dangerous. They're like a weapon. They're like huge. And then I'll trim off all the excess, and then you can see that little plaid border shining through. I'm sure there are other ways to do that, but that's how my brain worked at the time. Then I created a little black card strip here by just using my paper trimmer and cutting a little thin strip here. I'm going to apply it right there over the where the card panel and the plaid panel met, to create a little bit of a border almost. And I just thought it made it look better. And the last thing I'm going to do is little water droplets, little black water droplets. So I'm using the Midnight ink pad, and I have a wet paintbrush. and then I'm just picking up the black and I am just flicking it all over the place with my paintbrush. I'm a water flickeraholic. Is that a word? I don't know. Because I also flicked on some regular water by spraying some water in my hand and just flicking it on, because those inks do react to water as well. So I also have some water droplets as well as some of the black ink flicks on the card here, which you'll be able to see right here in this photo. So head on over to my blog for more information about the Stamp of Approval collections and for more still shots of this card here. Thank you guys so much for joining me today. I was battling a cold, so I'm so grateful I made it through this voiceover without sneezing in your ear. You're welcome. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.